Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Have you ever wondered why you focus on certain things the second you walk into a room, while your friend seems to look at something completely different? We all think we see the world the same way, but common sense might be wrong. A new study shows that the way your eyes move is actually a fingerprint of your own brain. When you look at a picture, your gaze isn't just wandering randomly. It is being guided by how your brain likes to process information. Think about it like this. If you are standing in a busy train station, some people will instantly lock their eyes onto the faces of the crowd. Other people might find themselves drawn to the signs, the schedules, or the written advertisements. Researchers wanted to know why this happens. Is it just a habit, or does it go deeper? They brought a group of 61 adults into the lab to find out. First, they tracked exactly where these people looked while checking out hundreds of complex photos. Then, they used magnetic resonance imaging, or an MRI scanner, to look at the wiring inside the participants' brains. They wanted to see if the way people look at the world matches up with how their brain specializes in processing different things. The results were super interesting. It turns out that if your brain has a really strong and clear way of representing faces, your eyes will naturally want to jump to faces in a scene. The same was true for text. If your brain is wired to be a pro at reading and recognizing symbols, your gaze will act like a magnet for written words. These researchers used the term distinctiveness, which is basically a measure of how sharp and clear the neural pattern in your brain looks when it sees a specific category. Think of it like a camera lens. If your brain has high distinctiveness for faces, your internal camera is perfectly focused, so your brain wants to keep using that focus. If the image is blurry, your brain is less interested. This neural focus also translated into real-world skills. The people who had that clear, sharp face representation in their brains also performed better on face memory tests. And those with a sharper, more distinct setup for words were faster at reading. It is like having a turbocharger for your brain in the specific areas that matter most to you. But they didn't just stop there because they wanted to be sure that it wasn't just about people paying more attention in the scanner. Maybe they were just trying harder to look at words because they liked them. They ran an extra experiment to test this and found that these differences in gaze were not just because of someone trying hard to pay attention. It seems to be a fundamental part of how your brain is organized. Now, while this is incredibly cool, we have to keep a few things in mind. This study looked at adults because both our vision habits and our brain structure change as we grow up. Seeing this in adults is a snapshot of where things landed, not necessarily the story of how they got there. It is very likely that as a child, when you are learning to read or learning to recognize faces, your brain and your gaze are building each other up in a cycle. You look at more faces, so your brain gets better at processing them. And because your brain is better at it, you want to look at more faces. This idea of a spiral of expertise is a great way to think about how we develop. The things we engage with most end up shaping the very hardware in our heads. The limitation here is that we don't have the play-by-play of that development yet. We caught the people in the study after their brains had already matured. It would be amazing to see a study that follows the same people through childhood to see the exact moment when the brain starts to mirror where the eyes land. Still, this research is a big deal because it bridges the gap between high-level brain anatomy and something as simple as where we point our eyes. So, what does this mean for you? Whenever you feel drawn to look at a person in a conversation, or you find your eyes glued to a book or a screen, remember that your brain is basically steering the ship. You are actively seeking out the visual input that your brain is best at handling. It makes our individual experiences of the world truly unique. We are literally looking at the world through the lens of what our brain has learned to excel at. What do you think? Do you find yourself looking at people constantly, or are you the type who is always reading signs and labels? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this dive into how your brain shapes your vision, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more deep dives into the science of you. Thanks for watching and see you next time.